This is the lesson for Tuesday, January 18th. We are going over section 5.6, which is synthetic substitution, aka the remainder theorem and the factor theorem. Let's start with synthetic substitution. To evaluate a polynomial function, you can use either direct substitution or synthetic substitution. Let's review direct substitution. If I want to find f of 3 in problem 1, I would input 3 for the unknown x in the function, which means substitute 3 in everywhere I see x, and then simplify that expression. And so here, 3 to the 4th, of course, we do our exponents first, would be 81, and 81 times 2 would be 162. 3 squared is 9, 9 times 8 is 72. 5 times 3 is 15, and then minus 7. And if we combine like terms here, then 172 minus 72 would be 90. Plus 15 would be 105, minus 7 would be 98. So that means f of 3 is 98. That's called direct substitution. Of course, it can be error-prone when you're raising bases to powers and you have lots of terms. So another way to evaluate a polynomial function is using synthetic substitution. So let me erase what we just did and show you how we can do this same problem using synthetic substitution. You all know synthetic division. So what I'm going to do is set up to do synthetic division. I'm going to put the value 3 in my half box because that's what I want to evaluate the polynomial function for. And then I'm going to set up, I'm going to use 2. I do not have a third degree term, so I'm going to put a 0 in my line. Then negative 8 for my second degree, 5, and negative 7. I was only missing my third degree term. And I'm just going to do my synthetic division. And so I'm going to drop my leading coefficient 2 below the line. And I'm going to multiply the 3 in the half box times 2 to get 6. When I add it's 6. Then I multiply 3 times 6 to get 18. When I add, that's 10. 3 times 10 is 30. When I add, that's 35. And then when I take 3 times 35, that's 105. And when I add, that is 98. So if you recall what I erased, 98 is what I got when I did direct substitution. So it's the remainder of synthetic substitution that becomes your answer for f of 3. And you can't just let that stand by itself. You do need to interpret the result and state that f of 3 is 98. So that is synthetic substitution. You do synthetic division, but you don't have all the variables involved, and you're just doing the multiplying and adding, and the remainder of that synthetic division is your answer. So let's try a second one. We're given in number 2, f of x equals 3x to the 5th minus x to the 4th minus 5x plus 10. We want to evaluate it at negative 2. So I'm going to put negative 2 in my half box. I will put 3 for the coefficient for my degree 5 term. Notice I have negative 1 for my 4th degree term, but I do not have degree 3 or degree 2, so I have to put zeros for both of those. Negative 5 for degree 1, and then 10. And then I'm going to go through the process I drop my leading coefficient below the line. When I multiply negative 2 in the half box times 3, that's negative 6. When I add negative 7, the product is 14. When I add 14, negative 2 times 14 is negative 28. When I add negative 28, then the product, negative 2 times negative 28 is 56. When I add, I get 51. Negative 2 times 51 is negative 102. And when I add, I get negative, not 98, negative 92. So my answer for f of negative 2 is negative 92. It's just an alternative way of evaluating a function that involves synthetic division. All right, now let's move down to the factor theorem, which is kind of related. It says the binomial x minus r is a factor of the polynomial p of x if and only if p of r equals 0, meaning the remainder of your synthetic division, if it is 0, then x minus r would be a factor of the polynomial. And conversely, if you know x minus r is a factor, then p of r should be 0. The remainder of your synthetic division should be 0. Let's see how we use that here. It says, show that x minus 3 is a factor of x cubed plus 4x squared minus 15x minus 18. Then find the remaining factors of the polynomial. So I'm going to first do, let's do it in blue. I'm going to first do my synthetic division. So x minus 3 is of the form x minus r. R, though, is a positive 3. It's like setting that factor equal to 0, and if you solve for x, the 0 is actually 3, because that's really what the factor gives you, the 0. So the 0 is really 3 if the factor is x minus 3. For my synthetic division, my coefficients from my polynomial will be 1, 4, negative 15, and negative 18. And when I do my synthetic division, the factor theorem is saying that the remainder of my synthetic division should be 0. Let's see if that holds. So 3 times 1 is 3. When I add, I get 7. 3 times 7 is 21. When I add, I get 6. And 3 times 6 is 18. And lo and behold, yes, the remainder of my synthetic division is 0. So then how does that play out? Well, what that means is my polynomial, f of x, has to factor into x minus 3. That was given to me and is represented by the 3 in the half box. But the 1, 7, and 6 from the synthetic division represent the polynomial of 1 degree less than what I started with. So the original polynomial is x to the third. So the 1, 7, and 6 mean I have 1x squared plus 7x plus 6 as the result of my synthetic division. The good news is we've reached the quadratic level, and it's quite possible that that may factor by reverse FOIL. So I am going to try to factor it. It would have to be x and x. I am looking for two numbers that have a product of 6 and a sum of 7. That's what we learned about factoring. Multiply to be 6, add up to 7. And of course, that's 6 and 1. And the signs are both going to have to be plus. So when they say find the remaining factors, of course we know x minus 3, that was given, but the remaining factors are the two binomial factors x plus 6 and x plus 1 that come from the quadratic that resulted from synthetic division. All right, one final problem, and that is really an application of what we are doing. It's called, or the problem says, the volume of a rectangular prism, V of x, is x cubed plus 7x squared plus 2x minus 40. This is going to look a lot like what we just did. It says if one of the measures is x plus 5, what are the other measures? Well, first off, in a rectangular prism, which is a box, in geometry, I hope you recall that the volume is the length times the width times the height. So by giving us one of the measures is x plus 5 here, that means the other two measures are in the volume as part of the product. So I'm actually going to do exactly what I did in the last problem. I'm going to put negative 5 in the half box. That's the 0 associated with the factor x plus 5. And then I'm going to do synthetic division. So I'm going to put a 1, a 7, a 2, and a negative 40. And that's going to enable me to go from a cubic to a quadratic. And I fully anticipate that the remainder of my synthetic division should be 0 if x plus 5 is a factor and a measure of one of those three dimensions. So now, synthetic division, I'm going to write negative 5. When I add, that's 2. The product, negative 10. That gives me negative 8. And of course, I get 40. And that makes sense. So what I know is V of x, the volume, is going to, in factored form, be equal to x plus 5. That's from the 0 that they gave us. And then the resulting coefficients of 1, 2, and negative 8 are representing 1 degree less. So a cubic would go to a quadratic, and we'd have x squared plus 2x minus 8. And the hope is that that's going to factor again because they want the other measures, and so they have to be factors. And we are looking for two numbers that have a product of 8 and a difference of 2, and that should be 4 and 2. As far as my signs, they're going to be different, and I want the 4 to be, the larger one to be positive so that the middle term becomes positive 2x. So when it says, what are the other measures? That would be the x plus 4 and x minus 2 factors. All right, that is the remainder and factor theorems, little synthetic division, not too bad. And as far as homework, you are doing page 355 and 6, 4 to 12 even, 18 to 22 even, 29, 30, 32, 34, and 38. The even answers are posted in Canvas to check. Also, please make sure you upload homework from Friday. We will go over it in class, so if you have to upload again, you'll be able to, but upload what you have, as well as don't forget your essay. Writing reflection is due by midnight tonight, so you need to get that uploaded as well. Also, since I'm not there today, please check comments on graded homework so that if you need to make corrections, you can try and do that. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.